Coming up on F1 24/7 News this week. An update on Romain Grosjean after his horrific crash at the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix. We also talk about who will be replacing him at this weekend's Sakhir Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton contracts COVID-19 and will unfortunately have to sit out the Sakhir Grand Prix this weekend. And we also talk about who possibly could replace him in the Mercedes alongside Valtteri Bottas. Nikita Mazepin is signed for Haas in 2021. We talk about the safety improvements and the investigation after Romain's crash in Bahrain and what this could lead to in further safety improvements in Formula 1. On Sunday, Lewis Hamilton took his 95th win, further extending his record in Formula 1 as one of the greatest of all time and securing Mercedes dominance in 2020. But unfortunately, the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2020 will not be remembered for Lewis or Mercedes. It will unfortunately be marred and remembered for the horrific crash of Romain Grosjean on the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix. He touched with Danny FIA and then was sent colliding into not one but two barriers called the Armco on the back straight of the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix, engulfing the car in flames and spending over 25 seconds engulfed in a crash. It was one of the biggest crashes we've ever seen in Formula 1. A lot of people are comparing it to the crash that Niki Lauda suffered in Nürburgring in 1976. And what Martin Brundle says is the biggest crash that he's seen of Formula 1 has ever witnessed since Gerhard Berger in a free practice session at the 1994 Imola Grand Prix, where he collided with the wall at full speed and the car was engulfed in flames. Now, Gerhard was fine in this, and of course Romain was fine as well on Sunday. We were, of course, very, very shocked when the safety and medical car were, of course, dispatched to his aid. Many people jumped in to save him, including the two medical car and safety car drivers, as well as the brave marshals around the circuit. The fire was put out in Romain Grosjean, along with a lot of extraction help and simulations that, of course, the FIA put into play. Romain Grosjean managed to extract himself out the car on his own aid and was absolutely fine. He went to Bahrain Hospital in the military zone in Bahrain and suffered only light burns to his arms, his wrists and his feet. No broken bones, and he was absolutely fine, having been engulfed in third degree flames for that amount. It was an absolutely massive crash to see this happen on the opening lap. Of course, the race was red flagged for over 40 minutes. Now again, to start this, Romain Grosjean is absolutely fine, and this is the first main priority that we want to see. Romain is absolutely fine. Now again, the Bahrain Grand Prix caught a lot of people off guard. Many YouTubers were making videos, including us, who didn't monetize the video. A few people, such as Dan from F1 Review, made a video on Monday. Of course, to process what had happened. It was one of the biggest crashes we've ever seen, and for people like me who only started watching Formula 1 in 2010, it was definitely the biggest crash that I have ever seen. Really hard to process, but as I say, he's absolutely fine and he is in the hospital. After the crash on Sunday, he even posted photos on Instagram saying that he was absolutely fine, and even made a video where he was cracking up saying that he was going to write to all of us with his fingers in cast. He's either further been exercising and hopefully trying to get back for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and this is a statement that he's actually come out with in the hospital. But without thinking about what can happen and trying to get back in the car so far, we're interested in Romain's condition, how he's doing in hospital right now, and of course the statements that have been put out by the various people that helped him, his team and everyone around him. Now again, this was a massive shock for every single person involved, in terms of his friends and family, in terms of his team, of course Haas, Kevin Magnussen and Günther Steiner, and everyone around the scenes, not least the other 19 drivers that had to unfortunately see this on the TV. And again, this will be one of the biggest crashes, if not the biggest crash they will have ever seen in Formula 1. So as I say, some statements were put out to, of course, make sure that the fans and everyone knew that Romain was fine and everything was going about normal. So let's start with the Haas statement that was put out on Sunday night after the crash. Now, Günther Steiner, the team principal of Haas F1 team, was actually interviewed on Sunday just following the crash. He said that he couldn't give any medical diagnosis. He had spoken to Romain on the phone a few hours after the incident, so again, that shows that he was, of course, well enough to speak on the phone, but he didn't want to put out any statement until, of course, had taken all the evidence on board. But a team statement was put out, and it says, Haas F1 team driver Romain Grosjean is continuing his convalescence at the Bahrain Defence Force Hospital, having remained there overnight following Sunday's incident at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Treatment on the burns Grosjean sustained on the back of both his hands is going well. Grosjean was visited by Günther Steiner, team principal of Haas F1 team, and on Monday it is anticipated he will be discharged from the care of the hospital on Tuesday the 1st of December. Further updates will be given when information is available. Now, immediately following the incident on Sunday, Gunter Steiner, of course, spoke to the drivers of the safety car and the medical car, saying that, of course, they had done a really big job. Gunter Steiner had said, "I want to thank the rescue crews who were very quick. The marshals and the FIA people did a great job. It was scary." It was definitely scary, and again, as I said, a lot of the drivers and teams definitely voiced their opinions in the incident. Lewis Hamilton had actually tweeted during the red flag incident to put his thoughts and prayers through to Romain Grosjean, and he says, "I'm so grateful Romain is safe. Wow, the risk we take is no joke. For those of you out there that forget that we put our life on the line for this sport and for what we love to do. Thankful to the FIA and the massive strides we've taken for Romain to walk away from this safely. We are so thankful Romain is okay following today's crash. This is a moment to recognise the work of the FIA to always make our sport safer and to salute upstanding the bravery and of the marshals and the medical crew." Now, there were some big words from, of course, Lewis Hamilton, a man who was definitely putting his opinion out there that Formula One is dangerous. And a lot of people will, of course, say that, they paid a lot of money to, of course, do this, but nothing can, of course, equate. They put their lives on the line every single week for our entertainment. It is definitely important that they stay safe. And even though this was a big crash, you've got to remember the FIA have done a lot of things in place to make sure that he was able to walk away from this crash. As I say, it was one of the biggest crashes we've ever seen in Formula One, and it was just so good that Romain Grosjean was safe. The biggest thing as well to come out of this is, of course, the Halo cockpit. Now, again, as many people have said, YouTubers and commentators over the world have said, the Halo debate is now put to bed, put to rest. There is no more talk about the Halo looking ugly or anything like that. It's literally saved somebody's life. And to compare it to, of course, what it was brought in to do, it has saved somebody's life. It was absolutely massive. It has been proven on simulations that the Halo lifted the Armco up. Without that, this could have played out, of course, a lot differently. Now, again, of course, puncturing the fuel tank of the Haas car with the energy of 52 Gs when the front of the car and the survival pod hit the secondary barrier called the Armco, it engulfed the car in flames. Ross Brawn has said that will only be partial to do with, of course, the 100 kilograms of fuel that was brought on board. Very much like an airline crash. It just engulfed the car because, of course, fuel and, of course, the leak in battery fluid after the crash was, of course, ignited around the car. It was almost inevitable that, especially at that high speed, that the car would have been engulfed in flames. But again, because of all the protective equipment that he has, including his helmet, which can sustain a fire for 20 seconds, and, of course, the 4 layers of his race suit, which are, of course, fireproof, his balaclava, his gloves, and basically everything that he wears, along with the survival pod, which is worked and enhanced by the FIA. And as I've just said that at the start, with all of the extractions that the drivers do, at least a few times a year that they, of course, are practicing this, one of the tests they have to do is to get out of the car, which means undoing the 6-point safety harness that they're in, getting through the halo and outside the cockpit within 10 seconds. And, of course, then replacing the steering wheel in a further 10 if a crash, of course, doesn't occur when fire is around. With all the extraction that the FIA do and all the drivers do, this means that this was pretty much a safe event, even though, of course, it did look very bad and it could have gone so bad. But this was a big movement for the FIA to again further enhance safety and look at Formula One and say, with all of the safety that we have involved, it is still very, very dangerous. Now, again, I'd like to add one more thing on this statement. Of course, we are so happy here from the Formula Debate Show that Romain Grosjean walked away from this. He is recovering. He has got a smile on his face. He's in hospital recovering, soon to be discharged. And as I've just said, that he's hoping to get back for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But let's just put that on the back burners for now. It is so happy that Romain is safe and well. And yeah, thank you, FIA, for all the work that you've done. So Haas reserve driver Pietro Fittipaldi will take Romain Grosjean to see alongside Kev Magnussen for the Sakhir Grand Prix, the race on this weekend. Now, of course, it was inevitable that Romain Grosjean would not take part in the Sakhir Grand Prix following his incident. Now, again, as I've just said there, he is hoping to get back to the final round in Abu Dhabi, which, of course, is in a fortnight's time. Of course, we are on a 3-week back-to-back triple header in the Middle East. Of course, 3 races in twilight as well. It's really not important that Romain focus on this at the moment, even though it is, of course, his decision. And as said, whatever he decides to do, whether he wants to sit out the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, even if he is fit and able, he might not want to do this because, of course, what he has sustained mentally and, of course, physically as well. if he wants to race for his own sake. Of course, this will be his final race in Formula 1, of course, following the news that Romain Grosjean and his teammate Kevin Magnussen will not be re-signed for the 2021 season. And again, we have, of course, news on that coming up. Romain will probably want to race in his final Grand Prix, but definitely the penultimate Grand Prix, the one that we're thinking about right now, which is, of course, the Sakhir Grand Prix on Sunday in the same event at the Bahrain International Circuit, he will not take part in. And Pietro Fittipaldi, the third place driver for Haas, will, of course, relation to Emerson Fittipaldi, will take that seat. Now, again, it is good news for him. Now, the second seat of Haas is still up for grabs. The first seat, of course, again, we'll get onto in a little bit. A lot of this news is kind of merging together, is still up for grabs. Of course, we think a lot of times it will go to Mick Schumacher or Robert Schwartzman or even Callum Ilott. Or to be honest, it's pretty much open, but I would say the cards are written for Mick Schumacher to take that seat. It is still open, and Fittipaldi does still have a chance, especially if he can impress on Sunday. Now, again, it is obviously a big thing for him to take that seat. He's been doing a lot of junior work with the Haas team, of course, in his other formulas throughout the years. But it is big news for him to take that seat alongside Haas. Now, again, it is a good chance for these reserve drivers when they get the chance to do this, such as Pedro Della Rosa when he got the chance to race in the Ferrari a few times. Of course, that enhanced his Formula 1 career even further. So it'll be good for Fittipaldi to get in that seat alongside Magnussen. But we are praying and hoping that Haas have a very strong weekend to show, to basically a quiet salute to Romain Grosjean, who, of course, will be recovering watching the race. It will be good to see Fittipaldi in the seat. Obviously, very excited for that. Obviously, let me know in the comment section below. Are you excited to see Fittipaldi in that seat alongside Magnussen? Or if not, who would you have chosen to, of course, replace Grosjean for the Sakhir Grand Prix? But any driver was, of course, important for this. And hopefully Haas do have a good race in Sakhir. Lewis Hamilton was on track to gain 100 pole positions at the end of the Formula 1 season in 2020, but unfortunately this will not happen, as Lewis Hamilton becomes the fourth driver to unfortunately contract coronavirus and test positive for COVID-19, and he will miss the Sakhir Grand Prix, the race this weekend, and maybe also more worryingly, he might also miss the next race in Abu Dhabi. Now again, this is just the week on Sunday, as I just said, there a triple header in the Middle East, but because of the strict rules in the United Arab Emirates, of course, the race where Abu Dhabi is, he might not be able to do the race. He might not even be able to enter the country. Now, it is very, very unfortunate for this, as Lewis Hamilton, even from Austria and even from the outbreak, has been making sure that he is taking all the precautions he can, including travelling separately from his team, from all the precautions that he does and all the precautions that not just Lewis Hamilton has, but Mercedes have in their garages to keep everyone safe. It is really, really unfortunate. And the news broke on Tuesday that he had tested positive and he will not race at the Sakhir Grand Prix. And it also broke on Twitter as well. As I've just said, they're following the strict rules at the United Arab Emirates. He might not race at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now, not as important. Of course, the first thing is driver safety. We do hope that Lewis Hamilton makes a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can test negative for COVID-19, and of course continue in the future. As I said, he is now the fourth driver in the Formula 1 paddock to contract COVID in some way, shape or form, and of course hopefully Lewis can beat it and race in Abu Dhabi. But this does mean that he will not be able to match 100 pole positions and of course 97 victories, which again was just a minor record that Lewis Hamilton was going for this year. But he's already the greatest. He's already matched 70-time world championships. He's already matched and beaten Michael Schumacher's 91 victories. So this season, of course, is going very strong for this. It is just really unfortunate that Lewis Hamilton will not be able to take part in Sakhir and possibly even Abu Dhabi. So that opens up the floodgates to who will replace him. Now, Stoffel van Dorn, the reserve driver for Mercedes, and of course ex-McLaren driver from Belgium, is the most likely to take that seat alongside Valtteri Bottas. Another name is German driver Pascal Wehrlein, who also featured on last week's F1 24/7 News, and the man who apparently was going to get that seat alongside Hamilton when Nico Rosberg retired. So those two are definitely in the firing line, and even George Russell's name has been floated about there, as he might even step up to the plate to race alongside Bottas, of course, who a lot of people are saying that is definitely his future team and maybe even his future teammate. He will race at Mercedes and someone else will step into the Williams seat. Now, again, just firstly on this news, it might be Israeli driver Roy Nissany alongside Nicholas Latifi, and if this news works, it might be actually pretty good. Let me know in the comment section below, would you like to see George Russell taking that seat alongside Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes in Sakhir and possibly even Abu Dhabi? Let me know. This might be George Russell's best break. but possibly not. I say Williams will want him to race at Williams, of course, as he is contract till the end of the season, and of course next season to do. It will probably be Stoffel Van Dorn. It might even be Pascal Wehrlein. Obviously, let me know who you think it will be in the comments below. But it is unfortunate news to hear for Lewis Hamilton that he will not be taking place. He will not be racing at Sakhir. We will be two Formula 1 drivers, of course, registered on the 2020 Formula 1 grid, down, of course, as Hamilton, and also Grosjean do not race. It might also be the same for Abu Dhabi. But as we just said there, the main thing is Lewis Hamilton. We hope that he, of course, does make a speedy recovery and beat the virus as soon as he can. It is really unfortunate news to do. The last thing on him is what everyone is thinking. Where is Nico Hülkenberg? To take the seat. It is really, really unfortunate for that. But Lewis Hamilton, hopefully he can beat this, and obviously hopefully he can get back to racing very, very soon. But nevertheless, you've had a great season. Even if you finish your 2020 season now, it would still be great. It will still be one of the greatest, and of course you'll be receiving your knighthood at the end of the year. And the final news, as we said there about the Haas driver, one seat has been signed, and that is to be signed by Formula 2 driver Nikita Mazepin. Now again, it really wasn't a big shock for many people out there, as Mazepin's name was almost secured. Of course, when Gunter Steiner, the team principal of Haas, said that Roman and Kevin would not be driving for them in 2020. There's still a bit of debate about who will be taking the second seat to be signed alongside him, as it will be Mick Schumacher or Robert Schwartzman or even Callum Aylward. But the first one is signed as Nikita Mazepin. Now again, it is a little bit strange that names like Schumacher haven't been signed, of course, all the hype that is following him. But for Mazepin to be signed, it is a really big deal, and obviously we'll be hoping that he has a good race. He'll be having a good season with Haas. The 21-year-old Russian has had a good season in Formula 2 so far in 2020, and obviously moving up to the big league, obviously a member of the Haas Junior program, is a big move for him. He has also said, following his Formula 1 debut with Haas, becoming a Formula 1 driver is a lifelong dream come true for me. I'd really appreciate the trust that's been put in by Gene Haas, Gunter Steiner and the whole of the team. We're giving a young driver an opportunity, and I would like to thank them for that. It is obviously really big for them, for the American team, to sign Nikita Mazepin. Now again, as I've just said there about the second seat, it is quite unclear about who will be taking that. Most likely Mick Schumacher, but we'll have to see. And as obviously, as time of recording, he has not been signed. But there we go, Nikita Mazepin will be signed at Haas for 2021. Big news, I'm excited. Let me know in the comment section below, where are you excited about this? And of course, who do you think will take that second seat? For me, of course, my driver, Louis Delattraz, he's been looked over on 2 occasions. He's not driving for Romain in Sakhir, and he's not driving in 2021. There is one seat available, but to be honest, I don't think Delattraz could beat Mick Schumacher in that race. Following the crash on Sunday, many of the drivers had voiced their opinions to the FIA. Now, of course, a lot of drivers have been praising them for the work that they have been doing. It has been very hard for the drivers, of course, after seeing it on the incident and waiting 40 minutes to get back in the car. But some drivers, such as Australian driver and Renault driver Daniel Ricciardo, have criticised the FIA for some of the things that they have in place, or some of the things that they haven't had in place. Of course, about all the replays that they've shown on the TV as well. That was, of course, one of the big things. Hard for the drivers to process. But however that everyone has vented out there, it has been proven that the FIA have done a very good job. Romain Grosjean has walked away from the incident, and it has been a very good project over the years where the FIA and the FOM have worked on Formula 1 safety. But there is still a lot of things that are up in the air that need an investigation, and a few things that they would like to change and improve for the future. Now, of course, the FIA will be doing an investigation into how Romain Grosjean's car caught on fire. Now, as we've just said there, Ross Brawn has come out and said to Sky Sports F1 that it was because of the mass amount of fuel that the Haas car was carrying. But there will be definitely an investigation into how and why the car actually definitively caught on fire, as nobody has 100% rule of how that happened. There was a lot of debris on the site, which of course has been collected, and as I just said there, the FIA will do a full investigation into how and what caused the fire, and basically everything around that. This is basically an airline investigation. It will take a long time for the FIA to come up with this and come up with a big conclusion. A lot of the marshals around there, including the FIA doctor, have helmets that were not fireproof. Now, the driver of the medical car and the lead FIA doctor, which actually helped Romain Grosjean out of the car, didn't even have a full shield helmet. And even though he had a fireproof balaclava, he was wearing a helmet which wasn't fireproof as well, and he didn't have a fireproof visor on as well. There was a lot of things that needed to be changed and improved in terms of fireproofing, not just the drivers, but the marshals, and of course the FIA safety cars, the medical cars, and the doctors, and everyone involved who could further, of course, protect the driver in this situation. We saw people risking their lives and jumping into this scene to help Romain Grosjean, and they didn't have fireproof things on. Of course, some people had fireproof suits on, and of course, everyone had helmets on. But still, and of course, there was fire extinguishers around, including the internal ones in the car. But you've still got to remember that a lot of people didn't have immediate 100% fireproof equipment on, and it still could have been dangerous for them. So obviously we'd like to thank the FIA for what they have done. In terms of the safety that they will be implementing into the future, we're definitely going to look at more stringent fireproof equipment that will be carried by not just drivers, not just teams, not just the safety and not just the safety and medical car, but basically everyone in Formula One to prevent injuries like this occurring in the future. I definitely think that the FIA are doing an amazing job in terms of safety, but they still have a long way to go, and this crash is definitely a learning curve from them. Thankfully, it had a positive ending, and they can learn with a thankful note in the back of their mind that obviously everyone walked away safe, healthy, and well. And of course, they can do a full, thorough investigation to hopefully prevent things like this happening in the future. Guys, that is the end of F1 24/7 news. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe. Also, go and check us out on SoundCloud as well for our new podcasts. Well, new, it's been out for about 6 weeks now, but go and check that out as well. As I say, hit us to subscribe. We have the target of 3,000 subscribers before the end of the Formula 1 season, which is in 2 races' time. So please help us out there. Get us to 3K. We're about 90 subscribers away. Hit that notification bell as well, and you'll be notified every time we upload. Thank you very much for watching this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it. Stay safe. We hope you enjoy the Sakhir Grand Prix this weekend. And until next time, guys, we'll see you later.